And I got a letter from Peter Zimmerman. How did you guys win the war anyway? He says, you dropped it to neighbor kids. And I said, wow, that was too bad. A failed mission. So I took a big pack of chocolate gum, a big one, and mailed it to Peter Zimmerman. We became really good friends. Dad and Mom both were killed during the war, and he was living with an aunt and uncle. Later on, I'd see that building that I dropped it to.
You talked a little bit about that still small voice. Can you talk to me a little bit about how your faith has influenced your service and in that time?
Well, I think the one reason that I got along so well, maybe the trigger that caused me to think about dropping those kids and what those kids were like was we just learned to share. We had to share, and when the neighbor living on a farm again, we didn't have a huge farm, a very big farm, and the neighbor didn't have any money to hire help either. And when we got through, Dad just made it well known, buddy, we're not through. We're not through, your neighbor's through. And that was just part of the way he lived his religion. He said, you haven't realized what real good feeling you have unless you've done something like that. You've got to help somebody else. That was just viewed being since I was just a little guy. And the neighbors, somebody beat somebody through getting an A up then we'd go help the neighbor. That was just part of our life. And it was just so natural that you want to help somebody.
Colonel Halvorsen, who do you think were the true heroes of the Berlin Airlift?
Well, there were 31 American true heroes of the airlift and 39 Brits, but I'm not one of them. The heroes of the airlift are those guys who gave their lives to the guys who were trying to kill them a few years before. I only knew one person on the airlift who complained about flying day and night, about close calls, radar going up and almost hitting the guys in a cloud. Airplane landed every 3 minutes. There were a lot of close calls. Only one person I knew complained. Why? And the bottom line is, the only real value you get out of life, and that's player, is serving, getting outside yourself. The Dead Sea's dead because it takes in all the water and turns to salt. And there are Dead Sea souls in your community. What's in it for me? It's a killer. How much are you going to give me if the need's obvious? The need is obvious and no money. So that's one of the great lessons I learned about the air in the experience.
Your experience in Berlin happened so early in your career. What did you do after the Berlin Airlift? Where did you spend most of your career?
In the Berlin Airlift?
Following the Berlin
Airlift. I just had a couple of quarters at Utah State, the university, before I got called, before I volunteered to fly in there and join the Air Corps. And they offered me a regular commission off the farm. They needed more pilots. Too many pilots were getting out after the war. So they started a non-college pilot training program. Didn't have to have a degree. And they said, if you've got to be a regular officer to do it. And they offered me and a lot of others while we're still in Germany to stay in the Air Force, Army Air Corps. And if you didn't have a degree, they'd send you. And I said, I don't believe it. I want to get out. I want to start a business. My mom told me to look out for guys like you. And so but he said, wait, here it is in writing. I said, I'm a farm kid. I don't know how that military life would work with me. I didn't know anything about the military, and I'm a non-smoker, non-drinker. I won't get along anywhere. Of course, that's the wrong thing to say here, because that's not what everybody's all about anyway. But I was a kid, didn't know. And what if I don't want to stay in for family reasons or whatever else? You can resign, show me. And he showed a reg and he signed up. And then after I got out, didn't get out after the airlift. It took me a couple of years, but they sent me back to Florida. Tried to go to out west, Western University could be out west, but they changed the regs, sent east, if you got to say. I went to the University of Florida, got a bachelor's in aeronautical engineering in 2 years, went around the clock, and they sent me another year to get a master's degree. From there, I went into research and development on aircraft first, but most of my time after that in my career, almost a third of it, not quite a third, was in the space program. I got in the space program, came here to school 57, went right to the space program in Los Angeles, worked with General Schriever as a field grade officer. I had more responsibility there than I had most any other time in my career, before or after. As a project office, I was in charge of picking how to put an Air Force man in the space to beat the Russians. It was MISS, Man in Space Soonest. I wrote the development plan for that. Worked with all the teams, the contractors, and how we do it. Martin got the award for the booster to put it in there. A Titan II liquid fuel ICBM as a core, beefed up the skin to make it strong enough. And I had the responsibility to get that assigned to a contractor. They got the contract. And then Wright Field, and this was out of Space Systems Division in Los Angeles. Wright Field had the responsibility for the glider, to put the glider on top. I can't have time to tell you about the research going into the space glider. And we had to marry those two things, put them together. So that's how I got into the space business. And I was only a major, more responsibility than I had in the rest of the Air Force almost. And then as soon as it got approved, then they jacked it up, and I helped the colonel.
We could all be so lucky. So following the Berlin Airlift, following your long, distinguished career, do you still keep in contact? Are you active in any Berlin Airlift societies? Oh, yes. I'm with a bunch of Berlin Airlift veterans. We got a C-54. We flying all the stuff inside of it, mocked up the same as the airlift. We flew it to Europe for 69 days, Great Britain, France, Luxembourg, Germany twice. Big celebrations. We're still flying the airplane. I'm in the right seat. That's all right with me. Do you still keep in contact with Peter? Can you tell me about some of the letters you've received in the? Oh, we got so many. I couldn't read the letters because I was always flying. I didn't even try to read them on the short trip to Berlin. So I had 2 German secretaries that answered all the mail, and there was a ton of it. The kids complaining, kids thanking you. Well, I haven't got time for all that. The interaction was unbelievable. But anyway, just two quick letters. One was from a little boy named Peter Zimmerman, and he says, "Look, did I tell that already? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank goodness. Okay. The other one was Mercedes Wild, and she says, "Look, you're causing this terrible problem." Boy, that's a quick way to get your attention. She was a 9-year-old girl. She says, "When you come right over our apartment house before you land, and you're scaring our chickens. And when we got a bunch of white chickens down there, and when you come over, they think you're a chicken hawk. And they run in the chicken coop, and they're losing their feathers. And that's bad news. When they do that, they quit laying eggs. When you see the chickens drop it there, don't care if it scares them." Well, I said, "Buddy, everybody, look out for the chickens. Drop them, hit the chickens if you can." Well, we took special attention. All the buddies were looking for chickens. Stuff out the flare chute. Nobody could. I said, "Bomb the approach." We bombed the approach. "You missed me again. How did you guys win the war anyway?" Same thing as Peter Zimmerman. It sounds like a chorus. Well, anyway, we took a huge box of candy and mailed it when we did that to hundreds of kids. Mailed it to Mercedes.
Later on, for 2 sticks of gum in 48, they took me out of the space program, for Pete's sake, and sent me to Berlin as the commander of Tempelhof for 4 years. The longest a guy had been there before was 2 years and 6 months, and they sent me there for 4 years. And then every kid that caught a parachute wanted me to come to dinner. We could eat free for 4 years. But I started an air show. We started an air show with all the different, bringing airplanes and skydivers and stuff once a year. And we had bring the kids on the airbase. So open up the airbase once a year and then fly over and, as part of the program, dropping candy bars to the parachutes. Well, the letters were absolutely rewarding, and that would take too much time.
No, sir, you're good. It really has been a pleasure to have you here on the stage and to share some time with you this past week. Before we get off the stage, is there any advice you'd like to offer the future leaders in the room?
Well, maybe what is it that impressed me in 95 in my life, and the airlift being part of it? Well, first of all, I think the importance of attitude. I told you about that already, didn't I? I hope you remember that. 95% of the things you can, but 5% God grant me the serenity to accept. Attitude, gratitude. I'm here because gratitude is kids throughout the canyon to you. It's the elixir that provides a bond between people. It opens the conversation. It breaks down the barrier. If you're thinking of what's in it for me all the time, you're not going to get the gratitude part of the equation. So gratitude it opens up things you never even dreamed about. You sit here and scheme all day. How am I going to beat that guy out of $10? And you're going to lose the battle. If you see, what's that guy worrying about? He's going around with a frown on his face, trying to run somewhere or hurry. Wonder what's the matter with him. And farmers, holy cow, we live by that creed. We live by that creed. So attitude, gratitude. And the killer, really, the Trump ace is serves before self. To get outside yourself. I told you why the Dead Sea's dead. I hope you remember that. Take in everything and give out nothing, you turn to salt. So attitude, gratitude, service before self. It's not a bigger, newer car, or Mercedes instead of a Ford, or it's not a bigger house than your neighbor. You get satisfaction out of life. You miss the boat. The only way to do it is to think about somebody else, to get outside yourself. And you've had that experience. You're here because of that. I can preach in the choir. You're in the service. What does that tell you? Service. That's why you're here. You're not going to be millionaires, but you're serving people. You're going to look in the eye of people around the world before you get out of, before you retire out of that uniform. Look in their eyes, they see you come to help. We've been helping people, George Washington and on, bringing hope. One of the kids that got a parachute came up to me and showed me the thing, and he says, it wasn't the chocolate. What it meant to me, that somebody outside of here cared about me and did something about it. I can live without rations, on thin rations, which is it, but not without hope. Without hope, the soul dies. Without hope, the soul dies. You've got friends and neighbors in River City without hope. And that's what you're about. A uniform is a symbol of hope. The United States of America Constitution that gives that right to everybody to have hope. You couldn't be in a better spot. Challenging. You're not going to be rich. But when you're dead, you don't know you're not rich. So anyway, those are the little decisions. The little decisions you make in your life put your footsteps on where you end up.
for good or bad. I just got the prompt, hey, go back to the fence, stupid. Changed my life. Changed the life of my family. Hey, the little decisions you make. Go to your conscience. You've all got it. It's not limited to any one religion or religion at all. You're born with it. You got a GPS. You beat the technology. Listen to it. Maybe I better try that. Maybe that'll help. Change your life.
Well, sir, I want to thank you. I also want you to know that your legacy lives to this day. In fact, I heard stories when I was on staff at Air Mobility Command, most recently with the airdrops that happened in Iraq over the mountains of Mount Sinjar, how they strapped bundles of candy on top of those humanitarian pallets.
They did.
So I want to thank you on behalf of our class in the Gathering of Eagles.
Well, God bless you. I'd sure give my right arm to be in your suit right now, where you're sitting. Got a great world out there. Go for it. But listen to your GPS, the real one, okay? Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Halvorsen.